What if I told you that in order to be on the TV reality series Hell's Kitchen, you don't even need to know how to cook? We learned this little nugget from season 15 winner Ariel Malone a few years ago. She won season 15, which is now 9 years ago at this point. She famously came up in an interview and basically said this out front. And she did provide a bit more of an explanation for that, and here's how. According to Malone, when you try out for the show, you are put through a battery of personal tests, personal quizzes, personality exams, and things of that nature to reveal to them how you would handle specific situations. A battery of exams, a huge hours of nothing but a battery of personality and mental exams. However, according to Malone, the one thing that you are not asked to do is cook. Which leads to a pretty salient point that I like to always make about these shows, and that reality cooking shows are really soap operas with a little bit of cooking thrown in. And this interview from one of its winners proves as much. It's always about a storyline. It's never about the actual cooking. And if you're wondering if any of it's scripted, well, I think with these types of mental batteries, exams, and things like that, before they even start filming, make it pretty easy for them to create a storyline without having to script anything. They know in specific situations how these people are going to act, and they can manipulate it that way, right down to what kind of challenges they have, to how Gordon is going to react to certain things. I don't think the contestants are necessarily the only ones being directed. I think Ramsay to himself, to an extent, is also being directed, or even directing himself to react in a certain way to certain chefs' behaviors, knowing what the counter result is going to be. So all of the stuff about that show being rigged isn't quite true, but is it manipulated? Absolutely. Robert Hesse, another contestant from seasons 5 and 6, also went on record after his appearance on the show as saying that many times chefs or the producers will mess with their equipment, turn ovens off, replace well-cooked dishes with terrible ones, and things of that nature. It's all about presenting a storyline and a specific tale. It's kind of like writing a live action book on the fly. So yes, as Malone says, you could make it onto the show and not know how to cook a thing, because once they have you as the right personality, Chef Ramsay and others can actually show you how to cook the dishes kind of on the fly. And if you can't cook them very well, that gets baked into the storyline too. So yes, I believe that there have been instances of some individuals in Hell's Kitchen who really don't know how to cook at all, who have made it onto the show. There's also a very famous one who was a cooking instructor but had never worked in a restaurant and never been trained as a chef. Of course, that's season 5's Colleen Cleek, who of course is derogatorily called Miss Manners because of how she reacted to Ramsay. Again, a situation in which Ramsay could criticize her signature dish in a certain way and know from her personal profile how she was going to react to it. Needless to say, she was feisty and was ripped right back into him. But he knew this, and that actually made for very good TV. So yes, the cooking is secondary on this show, and probably almost any reality show out there. What's really important is the storyline, how they can present certain people, and how they can make a theme out of a season. So there have been times when they've wanted to make a theme of the women being dominant chefs. They could personally influence, the producers can influence how the chefs are going to act. They're kind of like little marionettes, for lack of a better comparison. The producers are pulling the puppet strings and the chefs are the marionettes. And usually, and I've said this all the time, the nomination set deliberations are actually pointless. Chef Ramsay knows who's getting eliminated before they even start that. So all this drama that you see on camera of chefs screaming at each other over who gets put up for nomination is pointless. And this is pretty easy to pick out because Ramsay has eliminated chefs who have not even been nominated. Raj Branson from season 8 being a very famous example. And I believe he was cast in terms of his personality exam as being somebody who was very weird, sort of lazy, and just very off-the-wall eccentric. I believe he made the show for that reason alone. And so, yes, the cooking is irrelevant in Hell's Kitchen. You may not even know how to cook at all. I'm looking back to season 2, Polly. She had no kitchen experience whatsoever. Her only cooking experience was in terms of her family and her multiple children. So she had no restaurant experience at all. And yet was still cast. Her run was very short because she was terrible. But they always kind of need to have those really bad contestants in the mix early on so that if they need to, for the sake of the schedule of filming and the schedule of the episodes, if they need an easy elimination, Ramsay has one available to him on the spot. In season 6, this also came to pass because Chef Louis was an easy elimination because he was such a smartass that he got eliminated in the middle of service, of course, and got kicked out the front door, which allowed for Hesse, who had been eliminated the season before by his own heart condition, a second opportunity to return. Again, all scripted and all planned. He just happened to be in the kitchen when Louis screwed up. And so Ramsay gave him the invitation to return to Hell's Kitchen and compete. And he went on to not do very well on his second run through. I also happen to think that season 17 the winner was already entirely scripted from the start to finish with Michelle Tribble. The whole plot twist with a 3-chef finale, but wasn't really a 3-chef finale, was an excuse to get Michelle through past her good friend Nick. So Hell's Kitchen is not a real cooking competition. It's a soap opera with some cooking thrown in. Bless me. So, as Ariel Malone said, you don't even have to know how to cook to be on the show, because you are not asked to cook to try out for the show. It allows people like Raj Branson, who scarcely could cook anything, to make the show as kind of their resident Andy Kaufman. Look that man up if you want to see a comedic, stupid genius. His personality was so absolutely crazy and dumb that was absolute comic genius. This is the role that Raj Branson was asked to fill in season 8. Despite having no kitchen experience whatsoever, his profession was as a caterer at that point. So he didn't cook. Paulie didn't have restaurant experience. Many chefs in the history of the show have no restaurant experience at all. And that's because in order to make the show, you're not asked to cook at all. So Ariel Malone kind of blew the cover off of that one. I'm not sure how Hell's Kitchen was able to write the contract such that they couldn't. The chefs can't reveal who wins or where people place until the episodes air. But while they don't have any contractual obligations preventing them from speaking out in the ways that Ariel Malone and Robert Hesse have, kind of befuddles me at this point, because these are supposed to be very smart people. And yet, here's Malone blowing the lid off of how the tryouts and how casting works on this show. So yes, to be in Hell's Kitchen, you do not know how to cook a single thing. Made me almost want to try it a few years ago, just to see how far I could get. I guess it depends on what kind of personality that they were looking for at that point. 10 years ago, I was a lot more of a mercurial individual than I am now. A lot more of an emotional individual than I am now. So I might have been the type of guy that they might have been looking for. The present day version of me, not so much. So yes, you can make it in Hell's Kitchen and not know how to cook a thing. Don't say I didn't warn you. But anyhow, that's it for tonight's episode. I'm stacking these episodes up in a row, and I'm not mentioning what date it is anymore when I post and film these, because I'm kind of stacking them, 4 or 5 deep, because I'm in the middle still writing the book, which is going to be called End the Desperation and Start Winning, a book for single men, and basically meaning to get men to stop simping for women. If you don't know what simping is, it's basically, that's the desperation part of the book title. It's when men do go to extreme lengths to try to win over women, including always being available, giving them money, giving them their time, just going through ridiculous lengths to try to convince them to love them. Newsflash for everybody out there who doesn't already know this: you don't convince a woman to love you. Women don't respond to logic. It's not how they're wired. That's just God's way of doing things. Men are the logical ones. Women are more, you want to make them feel something. And so these men who try to approach it with the simp ideology, simp is short for simpleton, by the way, who try to simp their way into women's hearts and fail spectacularly every time. So I've got these episodes backed up, and I'm writing the manuscript this weekend and probably next week. So hey, we'll see you on the next go-round. Peace out, homies.